Welcome to another episode of What is Hashimoto's with Dr. Martin Rutherford. To find out more on any of our topics, or for information on scheduling a consultation with Dr. Rutherford, please visit us at whatishashimotos.com. And now, here's Dr. Rutherford.
Okay, so we're going to talk about insomnia and Hashimoto's. And I can't believe I haven't talked about this one yet because it's so huge. I mean, really, sometimes when people will, they'll say, okay, doc, they know who I am or something like that. I'm talking to people and they're like, oh, wow, well, I can't go to through this, can't go through your program or whatever. I can't do my diet or whatever. What's like one of the things you would have me change? And really, sleep is like way, way, way on top of the list of things that I would have them change relative to their immune problem. I mean, if I put it right up there with gluten, and I'd put it right up there with certain supplements that are really, really, really can be really powerful in autoimmunity. It's way up there because when you get into REM sleep, when you get into that right sleep pattern, it's called restorative sleep. Basically, that's when healing accelerates. So whatever you're doing with your diet and whatever you're doing during the day, relative to your supplements, your diet, your other triggers, your exercise, your not overtraining, all these other things, they kind of come together when you sleep. This is for me. For me, this is like top. I strive to always get my sleep, and I have to sleep more than 8 hours. For those of you who have seen this for the first time, I have Hashimoto's and a number of other autoimmune issues. So I have to sleep more than 8 hours, and sometimes it's a long time. So I make sure I get to bed early. I make sure I get through the night. I make sure that when I wake up, I'm feeling refreshed. And if I'm not, I'll stay there until I am. I'll know when it is. So there's not an exact number of hours for sleep for an autoimmune patient. Probably is relative to how severe you are suffering, how many tissues are being damaged. Sleep. So sleep is very restorative. It also is controlled by a part of your brain called the hippocampus. It's the same part of your brain that is relative to short-term memory loss. Same area, because short-term memory turns into long-term memory when you sleep. So the same part of the brain is involved in your sleep rhythm. Sleep rhythm is huge. Circadian rhythm is huge. So I've had several patients over the years who have inconsistent work schedules. So there's working normal daytime, and then they switch over to night shift, and then they switch over to daytime, and then they switch over to swing shift. I'm in Reno, Nevada, where we have several casinos, and casino workers will have that happen to them regularly. They start getting sick, they start getting injured, they can't think as well because it's screwing up their brain, and they're not getting the proper REM sleep, and they're not getting the proper restorative sleep. So it makes them much more susceptible to getting sick. So the latest studies, and I always say latest because studies seem to change, but the latest studies that are being used in the field of brain rehabilitation are that the ideal REM sleep is between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. in the morning, give or take an hour there, 9 to 3, but the course seems to be 10 to 2. So the recommendation is definitely to get to bed by 10 o'clock, preferably 9:30 or 9 o'clock, and be asleep by 10 o'clock. And then sleep through that cycle. I just had a patient. I was just looking at his stuff yesterday, and one thing he failed to tell me. That I was trying to figure out why his assessment form, why his symptoms looked the way they looked after about 6 weeks, because he had so many things that were so much better, but there were these weird symptoms. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. Why these are not getting better? Well, sometimes he doesn't go to bed until 5 in the morning, and sometimes he goes to bed at 1 in the morning. And sometimes he goes to bed at 3 in the morning, and sometimes he goes to bed at 9:30 at night. That doesn't work. You will never get better doing that, like never. You should use this gauge of because and it takes, like, let's just say you were on a night shift going to a day shift and you're not feeling so good. It takes somewhere between 1 and 3 months to reset that circadian rhythm. That circadian rhythm is like, I go to bed at night. I'm supposed to go to bed like when the sun goes down and get up like when the sun comes up. That's the original circadian rhythm. But at this point, it's more like you should be going to bed at like 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock at night, and then you should be getting up somewhere when you're rested. People argue that could be 6 to 12 hours, depending on who that individual is. But you should always keep your basic going to bed time as close to normal as possible. And it takes anywhere from like 4 to 12 weeks to reset that in your brain. And if during that period of time your short-term memory isn't very good, and you're running into doors and you're falling asleep at the office at the wrong times, this is going to be why, because you're resetting something in the brain that controls when you wake up. The things that control, truly what controls sleep in general is stress and blood sugar. Okay, but both stress and blood sugar directly affect this hippocampus part of your brain that controls your circadian rhythm. That's sleep. You can have good sleep hygiene, which you should, which is not having your computers on until you, not having your cell phones on until you go right to bed, or not doing excitatory things before you go right to bed, and having a dark room and not having LED lights in there, and not having your dog sleep on your head and stuff like that. But if you have these, but you can have, if you have the other three, if you have the blood sugar under control and your stress responses are under control and you're going to bed at 10 o'clock, even poor sleep hygiene isn't going to stop you from sleeping. So sleep hygiene is so huge. And then when all of that happens, it creates inflammatory processes. When you get up, not only are you not healing, okay, but relative to Hashimoto's, you wake up, you can't go back to sleep, you're in kind of a little mini fight-flight response that causes inflammatory responses, and now that's stress. And now that will set off immune antibodies against your thyroid. A lot of you, when you wake up in the middle of the night and you can't get back to sleep, it's because you haven't managed your blood sugar properly during the day. It's dropped in the middle of the night. Your brain needs blood sugar. Your brain tells your adrenal glands, I need blood sugar, and your adrenal glands put you in fight-flight. And when you go into fight-flight, your body vomits out just tons of blood sugar from your liver, where it's stored for emergencies like fight-flight and for famine and things of that nature. And now you're in fight-flight, same thing. Now you're putting out stress hormone. The stress hormone is called cortisol. Now you're putting out stress hormones. That flares up inflammation, boom, attack to the thyroid. So insomnia is a big one. To me, sleep is like the number one lifestyle change that has to happen for a person to really get the types of results they want when they're trying to get treated for Hashimoto, or if you're not trying to get treated for Hashimoto's. It's like the number one lifestyle change that you need to make.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of What is Hashimoto's? To find out more on any of our topics, or for information on scheduling a consultation with Dr. Rutherford, please visit us at whatishashimotos.com.